Okay, welcome again to the second episode of MERS Internet Crash Course. And today our topic is how to deal with tracers. And tracers, they've been around forever. I think the earliest I can remember is 2018 when a bunch of people started tracing from popular animation meme artists, but that's like my own personal experience with my first encounters with people tracing. And that isn't to say tracing in general is a bad thing, because if you've seen my past speed paints, sometimes I will trace from my own artwork or my own chart on OCs or original characters, like facial proportions, so that way I can get it right. So there isn't much to say on general tracing, because in some cases it can be used to improve, art. But today I'm not really talking about the beneficial version of tracing. I'm more or less talking about people who just blatantly trace. They've kind of just always been around. I feel like as long as digital art has been around, basically, or at least it was becoming a lot more common. There's been a lot of tracers, and I think when dealing with when dealing with a tracer, you kind of have to keep in mind that many of those people running the accounts are specifically young children, and I wouldn't say that you should be very aggressive with your approach on dealing with a tracer, but to, give them a gentle nudge that maybe tracing isn't the best course of action. Yeah, I think there was in my first video on here, there was somebody who wanted me to talk about a tracer and how they were toxic, and I think there are a bunch of, quote-unquote toxic tracers, just people who specifically won't credit the artist, will continue to trace, and really there's not much that can be done about that. But I guess if you're dealing with someone who is very firm on their tracing and doesn't really want to stop, the best thing you can do is maybe contact the original creator, let them know that this is happening. But if the original creator kind of is like, oh, it's okay to trace, then, because I know that in some cases there are some creators on here who do that, there's not much that can be done. But yeah, and I think the reason a lot of people turn to tracing is because they don't actually want to show their actual art or show their own art because they think it's bad or because they're insecure about it. And if you are somebody who is actively, tracing and partaking in that stuff, it's okay to have art that isn't the best, the first time around. And even though I feel the internet has become really, really mean towards beginner artists, when I started out in 2019 posting my animation memes, they were pretty bad. I'm gonna be real. They show their time. They are just what you would expect from 2019, But since then I've been improving, and I think by sharing my actual art and getting advice from people, that's how I've been able to step by step improve my artwork. And it's okay to, have artwork that isn't very visually pleasing when you start out. And it's sure as hell a lot better than tracing someone else's artwork, because even though there are some things you can learn from tracing, there's not a lot you're going to learn from using someone else's artwork over and over again. So yeah, that's my crash course on how to deal with tracers. And I know there's a lot of them, especially on YouTube. I feel like I'll see them 10 times more than any other platform. Maybe I'll see some on TikTok, but I've not really encountered any on there. But YouTube specifically, because that is where a lot of younger kids are. And to that I say, you know, I don't really want to do general call-outs unless I feel it necessary. But yeah, tracers, they've always been around. I'm sure they will be around, and I guess just kind of be mindful, because I'm sure that behind that tracing account, it's going to be someone who's young and not as experienced in art, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's all.